Quiet! Violet pushed him to the ground and disappeared fast as she looked up at a monitor. They couldn't risk being seen. Here on out, things are tricky. They're not already, Dash whispered. The lift should take us to the kitchen, and from there, we have to get down the hall unseen and make it to the lower level, Violet said, and Dash started to grumble. Yes, I know, go up to go down. Her heart started to pound again as she thought about what they were up against, but it didn't matter. She wasn't leaving here without that nullifier. The lift door chimed. Floor 1. It said, Kitchen. Ready? She asked Dash. You're going to need to be quick. I was born quick, Dash boasted, getting into a running stance to take off the second the doors opened. Wow, what's that smell? Is that lasagna? The lift opened onto a large kitchen area that looked nothing like their kitchen at home. For one thing, it was about 20 times bigger, and instead of one oven, it had 5. There were also at least 4 supersized refrigerators in the middle of the room. Violet could see 3 massive islands where dozens of workers in white chef jackets emblazoned with M's were running around chopping fruit and preparing every kind of food imaginable. Violet spotted several 7-tiered cakes with lime green and gold frosting, mounds of biscuits and cupcakes stacked on trays, and steaks and salmon being seared on stovetops. Was Mastermind hosting a party? The smell of butter and garlic mixed with chocolate was both nauseating and made her mouth water. But she stayed focused. Violet became invisible, and Dash shot out, moving so fast he must have hit a chef washing a pan, because the man turned around in annoyance to scold another chef, who then started shouting in French accent about someone swiping the frosting off the cake in front of him, smearing the M. Hey, who took my cupcakes? A chef with a mustache started yelling. We aren't supposed to eat anything. Violet scanned the room. There appeared to be no security cameras in here. That was good. The bad news was the only way to get to the door at the other end of the long kitchen was to walk right through the central aisle, which was clogged with workers. Someone would bump into her along the way, wouldn't they? Dash had already caused a commotion. Are you calling me a liar, Eva? The mustached chef wielded a cupcake menacingly. 2 minutes ago, there were 12 cupcakes on this tray, and now there are 9. Who ate them? At the other end of the room, the door opened. For all she knew, Dash was already through it. She had to move. If her mom were here, she could stretch herself from one length of this room to the other, knocking out people as she went, giving Violet a clear path across. Mom, she thought, her stomach tightening. She felt her whole body tingle and her skin warm as she held her invisibility and made her way across the room, dodging chefs and trays of fruit and cupcakes. Soon the door on the other side of the room was in sight. No one even seemed to notice when she pushed it open and dived through to the other side, reappearing in the hallway where Dash was waiting. Took you long enough, he said, popping out from behind a giant ficus, eating a biscuit and a cupcake. Stay down, Violet said, scanning the long, wide hallway with blue and green patterned rugs and abstract art prints. More than a dozen dark wood doors stared back at them. From either side of the hall, faint music played from unseen speakers overhead, and the sound of a film being filtered into the hall. This has to be the spot Syndrome mentioned on the map. But which door led back downstairs? We need to find the other lift. Now it's supposed to be right there at the other end of the hall, but it looks like a regular door, and on it, Dash said, zipping away before Violet could stop him. The kid was so fast, he was there in seconds, tugging on the doorknob at the opposite end of the hall. It's locked, he said, loudly. Violet rolled her eyes. She had to remind herself never to take him on a covert mission again. Quiet, she hissed, her voice echoing in the hall. Her eyes roamed left and right as she ran past several closed doors, wondering where everyone was in this place. How could there be so many guards and workers, but no residents in the house? Was Mastermind even here? Dash was still tugging on the heavy wooden door when Violet reached him. Hang on, she said, reaching into her other pocket, and pulled out the suction cup that Syndrome gave her that could unlock any door. She stuck it over the keyhole, pressed the button, and heard a faint deflating sound. Then a click. Dash tried the door again. It opened to reveal a hidden lift with shiny metal doors that also stood open. Cool, come on! Dash hopped into the lift, and Violet followed, pressing the button to close the lift doors as quickly as she could. She watched the long, empty hallway until the metal doors slid shut. She swallowed hard. Where is everyone? Music was playing softly in this lift too, which was much fancier than the first one had been. The walls were wood-paneled and glossy, with large M's etched into every surface. The control panel had 3 buttons in addition to open and close. Up, pull, emergency. Pull? That had to be also the down button. There was a pool on the lower level? This should take us downstairs. Let's find that safe, Violet said, pressing the button again and looking around for a security camera. This lift didn't have one. She felt the whoosh of the lift descending again, and then the doors opened to reveal a darkened hallway where the air was much cooler. A weak light filtered in from a single lamp at the other end of the hall, which was quiet and empty. Violet saw only one door. It was bright green. I don't see a safe anywhere, Dash pointed out. No paintings it could be hidden behind. No rugs over a trap door leading to a safe room. I don't think this is the right place. It has to be, Violet said, biting her lip. Syndrome said the safe was downstairs and this is the lower level. She scanned the walls for cameras. What if Mastermind was somehow watching them? Her heartbeat quickened. Before we go any further, let's try a spy guy. Yes, Dash said, pulling one out of his suit. He placed the device on the floor and it turned on. A laser pulsed and a light wandered over every corner of the room. Room secure. Violet Parr, Dash Parr located, said the spy guy in a robotic voice. Violet exhaled. They weren't being trailed yet. That was good, but time was ticking. Okay, great. Let's keep going. Maybe the safe is behind that door. It's the only one down here. Dash slid into the green door and stared at it. No doorknob, just a lock. Can you use that thing again? Violet pulled the suction cup out, fitting it around the lock, and heard a click. The door swung open on its own. That was easy. Violet held her breath, half expecting the room to be the actual safe and the nullifier to be sitting on a lit table in the center like a jewel on display in a film. Instead, she found herself staring at a lap pool that lit up as they entered. The pool looked like glass, reflecting the city skyline that twinkled in the distance beyond the large wall-sized window that had been cut into the side of the mountain under the mansion. The safe couldn't be in here, could it? It was the only room down here. Was Syndrome's intel wrong? Why would Mastermind keep a nullifier in a pool room? Violet looked around. It was the most beautiful pool location she had ever seen, and eerily silent and pristine. The only sign that people had used the pool before was the monogram M towels sitting on several of the teak lounge chairs lining the window and a few M-shaped pool tubes. A pool! Dash cried. Inside the house? Mastermind's place is amazing. And look, it has floats! Dash ran over to the other side of the room and grabbed a float shaped like an M. This can't be right, Violet said, hearing her voice echo. Why would Mastermind keep a safe in the indoor pool room? She scanned the walls for paintings. There were none, and hidden compartments. The walls were smooth, no gaps or cracks or anything out of the ordinary. And there were 0 rugs. What was she missing? She lifted a pool tube to see the ground underneath, then moved a chair. Nothing there either. If I had a safe, I'd put it in here too, Dash said, walking around the pool. Why is that? Because no one would ever think something top secret would be hidden in a pool, Dash guessed. In a pool? Violet rushed to the edge and looked down at the water. Could the safe be underwater? Was that even possible? When it comes to villains, she remembered her dad once saying, anything is possible. If Syndrome was right about the safe being on the lower level, then it had to be in this pool. Violet glanced at the timer on her watch. 42 minutes, 15 seconds. Her heart beat faster. If she couldn't see the safe from here, then there was only one way to see it. She had to dive in. But if they were both underwater, they wouldn't be able to tell if anyone entered the room or they were in trouble. Dash, how would you feel about taking a swim? Dash grinned. Yes! Can I cannonball? Why not? Violet said. The spy guy said the room was clear. Jump in and look for a hidden panel or a door. Anything that could resemble a safe. Got it. Dash took a running jump holding an M-shaped float and cannonballed into the pool. The giant splash sending the float carrying across the surface of the water. Violet leant over the side of the pool impatiently, looking for a clue herself while she waited for Dash to reemerge. His blonde head popped up in the middle of the pool. He reached for the M-shaped raft to hold on to. Found it! There's a door! In the pool! A door! Dash declared. Violet grinned, so the nullifier was in the pool. She was still in business. She glanced at the pool room's entrance. It was still closed. The room was quiet except for the sound of moving water, but that nagging feeling returned. Why did she feel like she was being watched even when the spy guy said no one was down here? She was probably just being paranoid. There is no way Mastermind would let two kids waltz into the place and steal the villain's most precious weapon. Can you open the door? I'll try. Dash submerged again, bubbles gurgling up behind him, and then reemerged a few seconds later. It's locked. A regular lock or a panel? Describe what you see. It's buttons beneath the handle, but maybe it will work with your suction cup, he suggested. She wasn't sure that device worked on a panel, but he might as well try. Violet threw it to Dash, and he caught it, disappearing again below the surface. Her heart was hammering now. She glanced at the watch again. 37 minutes and 22 seconds. Time was clicking away. Dash came back a few seconds later. It's not working. I tried pressing some buttons, but nothing happened. Violet gave a quick glance at the door again. Okay, let me give it a try. You keep watch outside the pool. Try the spy guy in here too. And Dash, if anyone comes through the door, use the freeze ray on them. Got it? Got it, Dash said, pulling himself out of the pool. Take a big breath before you jump in, Dash told her. The water's deep. Violet jumped in, letting the momentum of the leap take her straight to the bottom. The water was cool, seeping into her suit, weighing her down as she tried to move forwards while holding her breath. She opened her eyes and looked around. The surface of the floor was smooth and even until she spotted it. A small door with a handle and a keypad. The door was metal, letters and symbols etched into the keypad that didn't make sense. There were too many of them to even read. She swam towards it and yanked on the handle. It wouldn't budge. She yanked again, putting her feet against the door and pulling, but still it was no use. She had no choice but to float up and get air. You get it? Dash asked the minute she hit the surface. Violet wiped the water from her eyes. Not yet. Did the spy guy pick up anyone? Dash shook his head. Violet tried to push the prickling sensation aside and focus. I'm trying again, but remember, if someone gets in that door, use your speed and get out of here. Dash's eyes widened. Without you? No. Dash, listen to me, Violet said, her heart pounding harder. I can be invisible, remember? Use your strengths. She thought of Mom's advice before she left the other night. You'll know what to do. Then, before Dash could argue, she took another deep breath and descended below the surface again. This time, she went straight to the handle and tried to bang out a combination on the keypad. She tried using the letters to spell out the word mastermind. That didn't work. With her breath running out, she looked at the keypad again and noticed something. The buttons could be rotated, but when she rotated one, she noticed various lines on the button. Violet thought back to the lift doors closing to form the letter M. Could the buttons be turned on the panel till they resemble one giant letter M? She started twisting buttons as quickly as she could, her breath running out. She twisted the last button into place, forming the M, and heard a click. There was a hissing sound, and suddenly the pool's water was being suctioned out with alarming speed. Within seconds, the pool was half empty. Violet held tight to the latch to keep from being pulled away from the wall. Moments later, her head was above the surface. Dash called down to her, "You drained the pool!" "I opened the lock. You need to turn the buttons till they made the letter M," Violet told him. The water dropped to her waistline. She yanked on the door again, and it opened, revealing a small compartment. In the center was a clear glass cube filled with water. Floating inside that cube was a single test tube vial with a bright blue liquid inside that appeared to be bubbling. The nullifier. Violet wasn't sure if she should laugh or cry as she stretched out her hands to take the cube. She'd done it. She'd found the nullifier. Within the hour, she'd be back at Syndrome's, and they could use it and finally be safe from Mastermind. They'd no longer be super and in danger. Their lives forever changed. She felt a pang of guilt when she thought of Dash's reaction when he'd learned what this little device could do. Would he ever forgive her? He's going to be mad, but someday he'll understand. He grabbed the cube. Lights in the pool began to flash red. A door came down over the vault opening, and Violet heard a roaring sound. Clutching the cube, she turned around and saw a wall of water from an underground crate rushing into the partially full pool at an alarming rate. Violet floated up to the surface, clutching the cube, assuming the water would stop there. Instead, the water kept rising, sloshing over the side of the pool and onto the floor. "They're going to flood the room," she realized. "Why is the water still rising? And why are there alarms going off?" Dash pointed to the metal gates coming down over the large glass wall that looked out at the city. "Someone knows we're here." Water sloshed over Dash's feet as Violet pulled herself out of the pool, placing the cube on the already wet ground to get out. "Oh, is that what we're stealing? What is it?" "Don't touch it," Violet said, panicking. What if Dash broke it before they could even use it? "We have to get out of here, fast." Dash's eyes widened at something behind her. "Violet, I think the room is flooding." "I know." Her heart was in her throat as she looked down at her watch. 22 minutes and 14 seconds. She'd lost a lot of time getting the nullifier, but if they could just get out of the house and make it to the car. She pressed the button on the watch, letting Syndrome know she had the nullifier. Then she started to run. "We have to get to that door before we're underwater." Holding the cube tightly in one arm, they ran to the door and yanked on it, the water now up to their knees. "It's locked!" Dash freaked out, pulling on it harder. "We're doomed! We're doomed!" "Calm down," Violet said, trying to think fast. She reached a hand in her pocket for the suction cup. It wasn't there. It must have fallen out when they tried to use it on the safe. She whirled around, scanning the room for a small red suction cup, and spotted it halfway across the room. The water was now at her hips. She thrust the cube at Dash. "Hold this, but don't jostle it around or try to open it. Just hold it." "Where are you going?" Dash freaked as Violet began to swim away from him. The water was ascending so fast now. She felt the current pushing her backwards, but she fought the momentum and reached for the suction cup bobbing away from her. Her hand missed it once, then twice. The third time she leapt up and grabbed it, then swam as fast as she could back to Dash. The water was already up to his chest. He was holding onto the door handle for dear life, with one hand in the cube with the other. "We're not going to make it," he screamed. "We're going to make it." With slippery fingers, Violet fumbled with the suction cup and put it over the door lock. "Please work," she thought. "Please work." It didn't work. "Violet!" Dash said as the water sloshed higher, reaching his neck. Violet felt the water push her up, her feet off the floor, now as she tried in desperation again and again. No, they weren't going out like this. "Help!" Dash pounded on the door. "Can anyone hear us? Help!" Suddenly, Violet realized she didn't need the suction thingy. "Dash, swim away from the door." Her brother's eyes widened. "What? Swim away!" Violet yelled. Thinking of Syndrome's tutoring, she focused on all the pain she could muster, everything Mastermind had caused her, and she shot her hands out, firing the largest force field she'd ever made. The door blew right off, water gushing into the opening, taking Violet and Dash along with it. Dash laughing and screaming, "You did it!" The water dropped them off at the lip, exactly where they needed to be. Violet found herself laughing too. the stress of the last hour giving way for a moment as she crawled over to Dash, feeling like a semi-drowned rat. We did do it. You did it, Dash corrected, and looked down at the cube still in his hand. Thank goodness. He reached up and pressed the lift button as red lights continued to flash all around them. I can't believe how good you're getting with your powers. Violet's stomach dropped, her stress returning as they waited for the lift. She had to tell Dash the truth, and she would. When they were in the car, the doors opened almost immediately and they scrambled towards the lift. It wasn't until she took a step into the compartment that she thought back to the spy guy, wondering if they still had it and should use it on the next level before they tried to make a break for it. A blinking metal ball flew past her and exploded in midair. Boom! Violet took to the air, flying backwards. She hit the ground with a thud, the cube rolling past her, but she didn't care. Dash! She had to find Dash. She whipped her head around and saw him lying motionless on the floor. She had to get to him. Violet tried to stand, her head fuzzy, when a guard came running up to her and sprayed something into the air before she could even shout out. She immediately smelled lavender, and then her eyes started to close. No, she thought. I need to reach Dash, the cube, to escape. She managed to press the emergency dial on the watch to let Syndrome know she was in trouble, but her eyes were fluttering closed as her hands flew out in front of her, breaking her fall as she hit the ground again. The cube was just a few feet away, but she couldn't seem to make her arms work to retrieve it. Just before her eyes closed, she saw green high heels walk across the floor. Manicured fingers reached down and picked up the cube. No, Violet whispered. The person turned to look at her, but the face was fuzzy. Still, she could hear their voice before she passed out. Hello, pet.